Matt, you are the defending champion. How has COVID impacted your preparations?
Yeah, I think COVID has really impacted in two different ways for us. Obviously, for really about 8 months, we didn't go sailing. So I think the whole crew is sort of relatively rusty coming into the races we've done over the last few weeks. And obviously we've got a lot of race preparation to do and the Cabbage Tree race leading up into the Rolex Sydney to Hobart race. But probably every boat's got a similar issue, not enough time on the water. We've had the added issue that we've got a few crew that are interstate that are only just able to get out of South Australia and out of Queensland. So, that's something that we're going to bring the whole crew together for the Cabbage Tree Island race and hopefully get the best out of the boat. But equally, during the last 8 months, it's given us some time to, improve a number of sort of smaller systems issues we've had with the boat, and just trying to eke out that little bit of extra performance. I think in football, everyone talks about the 1%ers, and in sailing, we really look at the 0.1 of 1%ers. And, if you can find, 10 or 20 or 30 of those 0.1 of 1%ers, you can actually get a lot better performance out of your boat. So that's what we've been looking at doing. And, we've seen the race results over the last couple of races being really, really tight. The differences between the top boats has been only a few minutes over a period of 5 or 6 hours or more. So there's a great challenge for, I think, all the crews to peak at the right time on Boxing Day and the couple of days afterwards, but also to just increase the level of performance of the boats. And certainly there's a lot of activity going on with people tweaking their boats, which is obviously relatively late as we're it's December next week, so it's exciting times.
So, Matt, on that note, can you reveal what changes you've made?
I'm going to use the John Bertrand line, I've got a wing keel and you can't see it, but we've just done lots of little system changes, nothing major in the boat, but just, there's a long list of things that we've done better. We probably need to test them a little bit more, and we've got a bit of time to do that. But it's it's exciting trying to actually have the time to develop a boat that hopefully is significantly quicker than where we were 2 years ago.
I asked you the same question before 2019, and you gave a brilliant answer. I'm just wondering if it's changed. What does it take to win the Rolex Sydney Hobart?
I can't remember the answer. Look, I think you need all the moons in line. You need to have, obviously, a terrific boat and a terrific crew and enough time on the water to get the best out of everything. And then you need a bit of lady luck. We all know that if the race finished at Tasman Island, it would be a different story, but you need the luck of Storm Bay and the river to win the race. And that's the great fascination about this race. There's a large number of boats that can win the race. You might be the best on paper, but they only score it at the finish line.
What would it mean to be the first back-to-back winner since 1965? Is it something that you feel is a bit daunting going into the race?
I think going into the Rolex Sydney to Hobart race, you just take it as just another race. But I feel like everyone's put the moz on us to go back-to-back. 1965 was a long time ago, and it was done by some very good friends, Trig and Magnus Halverson, and they'd actually won the race 3 times in 65. So I don't think another boat will ever go the 3, but I guess we've got a chance of doing the back-to-back, and we'll see. But we'll just put that out of our brains for the moment. We are superstitious.
Sailors.
Formerly known as Infotrack and Perpetual Loyal, which won Lion Honours in record time for Anthony Bell in 2016, the boat is now named Law Connect. Christian, can you tell us about the new name and what else has changed this year?
Yes, well, we've got a new sponsor, and we've done a fairly significant change by putting a very large bowsprit on the front. And when it comes to bowsprit, size does matter, and we've got the biggest bowsprit in the fleet, possibly the world actually. So we're hoping that'll give us a lot more confidence this year to sort of, win the race, and that's certainly the aim.
What effect will the extra length of the bowsprit have on your performance?
Well, I think that it allows us to increase the sail area by about 15%. It also can take a lot more side load, so it's sort of got, you can put a code 0 further forward, which gives us more upwind performance. So I think it'll improve performance in most conditions.
Well, you were first out the heads in 2019, the last race, and that's a particular goal of yours. Tell us about the elation you felt. Why was that so important for you?
I always think about the Sydney to Hobart as sort of two races. There's the start, first out the heads, and the race, although that's probably my view of how I just love the start of it. It's sort of, there's so much sort of intrigue and excitement when all the big boats all the boats are together, I should say. It's like a car race, you always think there might be an accident, so it's interesting. I think the start of the Sydney to Hobart, it's so close and so tight that's so exciting. But to be first out of the heads, for me was fantastic because it's sort of something that we set out as an early objective and we really practiced for it, and to actually win it 2 years ago was great. Well, obviously last year was very disappointing because the forecast for us was very, very good because we're a heavy boat and big winds help us, so it was a big shame about last year. But I think you just need to make the best of it, and we've certainly done all we can to optimise our position this year. Yes, it's look, the bowsprit does change a lot, right? Because it gives us the weakness with that boat was always the light weather, and by putting a big bowsprit on it, it gives us about 15% better sail area, but it also allows us to run 3 sails in a reach, not 2. There's a range of, it's actually lighter, so there's a lot of things about it that really does improve the boat, but we haven't tested it yet, so it's looking great on the dock. I think it's actually out there now. I can see it from here, but realistic, that would be its first sail, so we have to test it, but I think it should make it a lot different, really.
Changes.
Look, I think I firstly wanted to do the race. That was my dream as a child. I used to watch it every year on Boxing Day on the TV. And once I did it, I sort of then decided I want to try and win it. And we've been working very hard to do that. We're sort of on a trajectory. First year we came 24th. The second year we came 4th, and then we came 2nd. So we're sort of on a trajectory, and we're working very hard to try and win the race.
Has your opinion of the boat improved?
The boat was built in 2010 in the UK, and it was a magnificent boat built at Green Marine. And when it came to Australia, Rupert Henry campaigned it very successfully. And of course, as most people are aware, he won the Melbourne Osaka race, breaking the race record in the two-handed race by 5 days. But technology moved along, and the new evolution of designs meant that the boat needed to be updated in a number of aspects. So since I've acquired the boat from my dear friend Rupert, we've put on a Frolic have designed, and we've put on a new deeper keel, takes the draft from 4.1 to 4.6 metres, and was able to take about 800 kilos out of the boat. We've also got a whole new sail plan, because sail plans have evolved rapidly over the last 5 or 6 years in particular, I think, Gordon. So Norse have done a wonderful job rejigging our sails. But where I've also been lucky is that I couldn't do this without some of my lifelong friends like Michael Coxon, who was the head of Norse Sails till he recently retired. And we've had Grant Simmer join the crew, who most people will be aware has been in every America's Cup since Australia, and including when Australia 2-1, recently retired as the CEO of the UK Ineos campaign. Rob Greenhall, who's sailed in everything, sailed with Matt Allen, in fact, so we've got a few secrets coming on board there, Matt. But no, he doesn't talk out of school. But, Rob's been on 2 Volvo races, one round the world race. He's been a champion in Moths 18-foot skiffs, and you name it, he's just brilliant, and he's in charge of the speed loop. Tommy Braidwood, who's the crew boss, and other great sailors like Doug McGain. So I think we're in pretty good shape, thank you, Gordon.
Well, the TP52s will be looking for plenty of running and reaching, but what conditions are you hoping for to take out the handicap prize?
We view ourselves as a bit of an all-round boat, I think. We're pretty happy most of the time, but we would, I think if it came down to it, I mean, you hate to do it to yourself, but we'd prefer an upwind race. Everybody loves a downwind race, but actually for the point of view of us having a slightly better chance would be upwind probably the whole way. Very uncomfortable.
The tougher the better by the sound of it.
Unfortunately, yes, Gordon.
Well, I was looking for something which I can handle, two-handed. So I was looking for something of 40-footer, and I saw her and I just fell in love. So she's really beautiful, and she's exactly what I need in terms of technical characteristics and size and design and everything. I can't even say what I don't like about her, except the price.
It's a bit like a marriage, is it?
I think it would be much harder to separate, really.
Well, we talk about, it's a colloquial expression, safety in numbers, but there's only two of you on board tackling the rigours of Bass Strait. Is there any trepidation there for you?
I always feel trepidation on the start line, even when I am crew. And actually, I think it might be even easier now because there are less people to worry about.
Well, what about some of the conditions you've experienced, particularly in Bass Strait in your previous 4 races?
Oh, I love it. I've been there 5-6 times, and it's always different, but it's always exciting. So I hope it's not going to disappoint me this time.
Well, you're a qualified yacht master. Tell us about your relationship with your co-skipper, Jason Cummings, who's down in Hobart.
Yeah, we've met in 2015 when he was skipper of Flying Fish Arctos. We did Hobart together. And then when I was preparing for my yacht master, he trained me. So after we sailed together so much, he's still willing to sail with me, which I find strange, but his choice.
How does that dynamic work?
So far, so good. As I said, he's still coming back. So he's saying he's enjoying it as much as I do, and I tend to trust my co-skipper. So I believe what he's saying. I think it's important to keep your energy, as Jules say, right? On short races, you can just push hard. On races which longer than 2 days, you need to balance and don't forget to get some sleep. Well, I think it's going to be hard, but I'd like it hard, right? That's why. Yeah, so, well, I think for me, a lot will depend on the weather, right? So I think that's the hardest, most unpredictable thing there is the weather. I guess the boat is ready. We are more or less ready. Well, I never feel ready, to be honest. But the weather is something we cannot control. It will be probably the hardest part to deal with it.
We were chatting, we got this really good little cohort amongst the two-handers here out of Sydney. We'll have to get you involved in that, Jen. Pit water's pretty close. And someone made a comment the other day which I think is really pertinent, and that was probably our biggest competitor isn't each other, it's fatigue. And it's how we manage that, because our routing suggests it's somewhere between 3.5 and 4 days is what it's likely to take us to get there on our boat. You're probably a bit quicker on yours, I should think, Jen. And that's long enough that you've got to keep getting rest, because as Matt said, you get up that Derwent River and anything can happen. The whole race restarts there, and you've got to have enough freshness to be able to think properly and digest the data sources to make the right decisions, which could be quite hard at that point, I reckon. The one benefit of lockdown was you could keep sailing two-handed. So we got very familiar with our 5-kilometre perimeter fence, which luckily included a bit of ocean water. So we were out every weekend practicing, learning how to sail two-handed, learning how to sail together.
And how long is the boat?
She is 9.9 metres, so it's 32 and a bit feet, just under 33 feet.
What features were you seeking when you purchased this boat with the Sydney Hobart in mind?
So I blame lockdown number one for this harebrained scheme. I was sitting at home, I was watching what was happening overseas, and two-handed was exploding. And I've got 10 and 12-year-old daughters, so I've been in the trenches and was keen to get back into the ocean racing. And we were looking at the conditions for the Hobart. And the summary was, it's a windward-leeward race. You've got northerly breezes or you've got southerly breezes, broadly speaking. So a boat that could go well upwind and a boat that could go well deep downwind was what we were after.
What are the priorities as far as your energy levels are concerned in this race?
Yeah, that's been a huge thing. And we've got a mantra that you must never be hungry, you must never be thirsty. Because once you've got thirsty or got hungry, you've depleted your energy. So we're freeze-dried food, but it's got a lot of calories in it. So one of those every 6 hours, that pretty much does us. And then we've been finding the fluid consumption has been huge because it's very physical sailing on the little two-handed boats. So we've been hydrolytes in the water, keeping the salts, whatever it is in your blood up, the good stuff in your blood, to keep yourself hydrated, super important.